Awesome. Well, thanks for the introduction, and thanks to the Hub and all of our really great African colleagues here for inviting us to be here. I'm Jenny with Bush and Beyond, and we're a collection of 6 properties in Kenya that are all owner run and managed. And when Sammy and Laura said that we have an activities week, I said, well, you have come to the right place. So when your guests, or you, hopefully, come visit us, you're going to be meeting one of these wonderful characters that we've got on this first slide. And they're going to be taking you out and experiencing Africa in just so many adventurous ways. We do offer at almost all the properties game drives, walking safaris, sleepouts, and fly camping. We're not into golf and wine just yet. Maybe someday we will be. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm just selecting kind of one of these activities to highlight at each camp so we don't overload you with too much information. And as Sammy has said as well, I'll pop my information into the chat so we can always chat more about this. And we have lots more information on the Hub for you to access as well. So we're going to start with the Amakoko in Nairobi National Park. This is the oldest national park in Kenya where you can do these traditional game drives, as we've learned lots about in the very beginning of the presentation. The benefit of staying at the Amakoko actually is that not only do you get absolutely superb game viewing in a park right in the heart of the city, but we've got special permission with the park so that there are a few self-drivers that you're going to see when you're here doing your game drives, but they all have to leave when the park closes. And when you stay at Amakoko, as you can see here, you can actually stay a little bit longer and enjoy your sundowners and have that full game drive experience. Maybe a bit unknown to some, but there are so many rhinos actually in Nairobi National Park. Over 100 are there, black and white. And they're pretty easy to see actually. So a great spot for your clients that want to see some rhino. And where else in the world, really, can you see this just expanse of green and so many great animals to be seen right up against this throbbing, pulsing city? It's a great way to teach your clients and show them actually their conservation dollars at work. Because if we're not visiting places like this and protecting them with our conservation dollars, they'll cease to exist. And if you want to stay a bit close to home here at the Amakoko, we also have our resident bush baby, Carolina. So you don't even have to leave the lodge to get some cool game viewing here. Next, we're going to head to the Masai Mara. And I think a lot of you know this guy. This is Jackson Lucia of the Big Cat Diaries fame. He owns Tangia Mara with his partner, Dominic, and it's our 100% Masai-owned camp. So with a guide like Jackson, you know you're in good hands for your game driving when you're in the Masai Mara. Jackson also has set up a guide training school, and he trains all the guides at Tangia Mara. When you're in the Mara, you are in a world-renowned area for game viewing. This is the home of all the animals that you've dreamed about and your clients have dreamed about, the wide open plains, the large herds, and the big cats, of course. Jackson and his guides are so enthusiastic, and because they are all Maasai, they know how to navigate maybe the busier areas of the Mara and kind of get you to have that most wild experience possible. They do have some new vehicles this year, as you can see here, with charging points and cooler boxes to make sure that your experience is quite comfortable while you're there. And we can't forget our female guides. We've got Lucy, in case you've got a girls' trip that wants to come here as well. And again, if you want to stay close to home at Tangia Mara, we are sitting right here on 1,000 acres of private Maasai-owned or leased land. So while you're at Tangia Mara, at your tents, which you can see right on up here on the escarpment, there's always animals out in front on the Salt Lake and on the Mara River below. We also have our Tangia Pride. That's up to about 14 lines. That spend lots of time right by camp. Moving a little further into the north of the Mara, we've got House in the Wild. And while the game viewing is superb here too, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. If you come to the House in the Wild, outside of those peak migration seasons, you also get just the bigger herds that are versus what's in the Mara. They'll kind of start up at House in the Wild and then move on down south as you get closer to migration season. So great time to see it. But we're going to focus a little bit more on walking safaris now that we're at House in the Wild. At House in the Wild, we take kids of all ages, and that's true for all the properties at Bush and Beyond. So if you want to get those youngsters out learning about the bush and exploring it on foot, we will absolutely do it. We're on a private conservancy, and we will structure that walking safari for the littlest of your bunch. The also neat thing here too is that if you want to walk a little bit closer to home at House of the Wild, they have an excellent birding path right on site. And this is self-guided. So you can kind of take a stroll right after a delicious lunch. And there's even some great benches that are carved out in little nooks and crannies if you need a rest. And as you can see, you can sit here and pop right on over and see the Mara River below and kind of see what you have down there. They're working on a secret lunch spot back here and maybe even a sleep out in the future. Another way to stretch those legs while you're at House of the Wild is to get out to the Rhino Sanctuary. We've got 2 southern white rhinos here, which are a breeding pair. And don't worry, the kids are very safe. These rhinos are blind, and you can approach them on foot safely with the rangers that guard them 24 hours a day. Moving on to Lea House, an amazing area right in Lea Conservancy. And we've got Callum right here, who's one of the owners at Lea House, that again will take you and your family out on a walking safari, and they will absolutely structure this for your littlest ones. Or if you've got someone that wants to get out and just be out all day, pack a picnic lunch, run into some animals at a safe distance. And also just to see some absolutely beautiful vantage points from Lea. As our partner said too, this is a way to really get close to nature and to see and smell and hear Africa. You could also stretch your legs while you're at Lea by going to the AntiPoaching Conservancy headquarters here. As you can see here, you've got our anti-poaching team with our bloodhounds, and you can actually get interactive when you're visiting here. So you just have to make sure that they're in-house and ready to show you how they track down poachers. And you and your family can actually pretend to be either a poacher or a ranger. Last time I was here, I pretended to be a poacher, so I got to hide with one of the rangers. And when the bloodhound finds you, you can actually reward him with some treats. So a great way to see your conservation dollars in action. The other neat thing about Lea is that we've got the northern and southern species here. So if you're on a game drive, which of course we have too, or on a walking safari, you just have so many different unique animals to possibly see. The last way we can stretch our legs here at Lea House is if we take a day trip to the Ngari Rainforest. And here you see the longest canopy in East Africa. If you stay 3 nights or more at Lea House, they actually include a visit here, which is quite fun. So after you've gone down the canopy, you can pop actually into a waterfall that's fed by glacier waters. So for a really good refresh while you're here. We're going to pop on up to our last 2 camps now and focus on sleepouts and fly camping. So at Sara, which is way up north in the Matthews Range, just surrounded by beautiful mountains, you can stay at Sara tree houses, which you see here. And if you want kind of a light sleep out, your veranda can be turned into a treehouse sleep out overnight. And this one's really lovely for those of you who want the low commitment, because you can try it out. And if you decide it's not for you, you can see your tent is just right here and you just pop back into that tent if you decide against it. Also at Sara, we can do an amazing fly camping. So if you do want a bit more adventure than to be staying out on your veranda there, you can go on a walking safari, a game drive, any way you'd like to go, and you'll eventually wind up down in one of these dry riverbeds. As you can see here, this person has just come off of exciting walking safari, ready for their sundowner, and they'll be introduced to their home for the night here. So the fly camping is quite lovely. The beds here have the star flaps on the top so that you actually see the wide African skies just above you as you're doing the fly camping. The other neat thing you could do as well, and maybe a good hint for you agents on the line here, is that there are some local Samburu dancers around too. So if you'd like to surprise them, it's a little bit of an extra cost. You can pay for them to come and they will surprise your guests kind of just as the sun is coming down. They'll approach, they'll be singing and dancing, the fire is going to be popping, and it's just an excellent way to spend a night under the stars at Sara. And finally, we're here at Omalo. So many adventurous ways to explore Kenya from here. Our sleepouts we're going to focus on are going to be the tree house, which you could sleep right on up in this tree. Really fun to come here for dinner, cuddle up, and then in the morning, they're going to pop your coffee just right on down here. So you'll be ready when you wake up, right, with that fresh cup of brew. And if that's a bit too open air, we've got a hide sleep out on property as well. And and you can pop up in the bunks here to sleep overnight, or just come on down for sundowners and maybe catch that leopard that's known to be around. And finally, with Omalo, if you want even a bigger adventure with your walking or riding safari and sleep out, we can get you out on a minimum 2-night, 2-guest, multi-day walking or riding safari. And again, this is the way safari started. So a real adventurous way to wrap up your trip here. We can take the fly sheets off of these tents as well, so that you can see the stars above and hear nature while you're there. And I think I hit my 10 minutes, hopefully. So thank you so much, Sammy. I really appreciate it.